Hello everyone. In this video explainer, we are going to deal with the multi-source reasoning questions. Now, what is multi-source reasoning question? Multi-source reasoning question is also one of the 5 question types in the newly introduced data insight section of the GMAT focus exam. Now, multi-source reasoning question would entail you to assimilate information from different sources, right? As you would understand from multi-source reasoning, you would have to critically analyze information from different sources, assimilate, and then give correct answer. Okay, so let's look at one of the multi-source reasoning question and see how this question looked like. Now, remember, the multi-source reasoning questions can be, testing your verbal reasoning ability. It can also test your quantitative reasoning ability as well as overall general logical understanding of things, right? But you will always have information presented in 2 or 3 different tabs, and you will have to kind of assimilate those information in order to get to the correct answer. All right. Okay, let's look at a multi-source reasoning question. Okay. All right. As you can see that you have 3 tabs here. This is email from administrator to research staff. This is the first tab. In the second tab, you have email from project coordinator in response to the administrator's January 15 message. This is the email. So this is the response to that email. And then there is the third email. So you will have to assimilate information from email 1, email 2, and email 3. And then you will have to choose any one of these answers. So you will have to choose yes or no for each of the 3 choices. So you either have to choose yes or no for the first one, for the second one, as well as for the third one. Now, remember, it's very important that you will have to choose the correct choice for each of these 3 statements. Okay, so there is no partial section. So if you say, for example, get the first one correct and the second one correct and the third one incorrect, your entire question will be wrong, right? So you will have to get all 3 choices, 3 statements correct. Then only you will be able to get a correct answer, correct full point, full score in this question type, right? So let's look at this question. Let's read this question and see what is written. Okay, so this is the email from administrator to the research staff. What does it say? Yesterday was the deadline for our receipt of completed service from doctors who were invited to participate in the medical practice priority survey. Okay. Did we get enough returns from this original group of invitees? So they have sent some surveys, and the administrator is asking if they have kind of received returns from this original group of invitees to get reliable statistics, whether they have got all the, responses from all these surveys. Do we need to invite additional participants? The surveys, those people who have given you have returned the response, is it enough, or do we need to send the service to more people? So this is what the first email is saying. Okay, let's go to the second. In the second email, it says email from project coordinator in response. So the administrator asked whether the number of response we have received from the survey is sufficient, or do we need to send it to additional participant, to which the second email is responding. Altogether, we got exactly 350 actual survey completions. We need at least 700. So they have received 350 and they need 700. Okay, all right. So we plan to invite a second group. So 1 is not sufficient. So the first time it was not sufficient, they need to send the survey to additional group of people. Both the results from this first group and other research indicates that this type of survey and this type of participants, there is about 40% probability that any given invitee will submit the completed survey in the time will allow. So there is about 40% probability that they will send back the survey. So if they send a survey to 1,000 people, around 400 will send. Of course, it's not a definitive number, but that's what the range is. That any given invitee will submit the completed survey in time will allow. Obviously, that doesn't mean that if we invite 1,000, we necessarily get at least 400. So we need to think in terms of the risk of getting too few returns or exceeding the budget. So it's possible that they would get fewer than 400. If they get fewer than 400, even if they get 350, it's okay. They will manage because they need 700, right? But if they get very less, then it's possible. Or even if they get more, right? Say instead of 400, they get 500. So they would have around 850, total responses. But with that, what will happen? They will exceed the budget. So there must be some budget associated with it. All of the participants who submitted the service by the deadline will get the $50 payment fee promised. Okay, so they promised $50 per survey. So what is our total budget for compensation to participants? So they will give $50 for each of the person who will, kind of respond to this. All right. Okay. Let's clear this and look at the third email. The third email says, this is from administrator in response to what is the budget. The budget we allocated for compensation to those who complete and submit the medical practice a priority survey is $45,000. So they have allocated $45,000. Now we remember that $50 were for per survey. So we can roughly say that they're estimating their budget is for 900 participants, right? Because 900 into 50 is 45,000, and they have received around 350 applications. So they have space for around 550 more. Even 550 people returns, they will not exceed the budget. Okay, we will honor our commitment to pay $50 to each participant in the second group as well as the first who completes the survey and submits it by the deadline we specify when we invite them to participate. However, we will need to try not to exceed the total amount that is budgeted for this purpose. So he's going to try not to exceed the total amount that is budgeted for the purpose. Okay, all right. Now let's look at the choices, the statements, the associated statements we have for this. The first statement says, the administrator is unwilling to invite as many participants in the second group as were invited in the first group. No, we do not have any evidence for that, right? Because the administrator wants the survey, he's just asking whether we need to send it to an additional group of people. There is absolutely no evidence to suggest that the administrator does not want to invite as many participants because he needs the 700, kind of responses in order to get to the study, get to the, whatever response, whatever function that particular survey is going to serve. So the first option is no. See, we have come to this conclusion through assimilating information from email 1, email 2, and email 3. Okay? Okay. Let's look at the second one. The project coordinator does not expect to be able to meet the goal for numbers of completed surveys received. Okay, this is also no, right? Why? Because you see, the project coordinator does not expect. If he does not expect, then he would not have sent the additional service to additional group of people, right? So the project coordinator does not expect to be able to meet the goal for the numbers completed in the survey. This is also no. The third one says the administrator is willing to accept some risk of exceeding the budget for compensating participants. Now you see, they have received 350 surveys, right? So $50 is like they will pay. So if their budget is $45,000, then they would be able to pay an additional 550 people. Now, obviously, that doesn't mean that if we invited 1,000, we'd necessarily get at least 400. But overall, in the third email, you will see that, however, we'll need to try not to exceed the total amount that is budgeted for the purpose, right? So he's trying to send, but he understands that if you send survey to an X number of people, there's a possibility that more people will return, or more people will, kind of send back the survey than what they have budgeted for, or less people will do. So some risk is still accepted. So the third choice is going to be yes. Okay. So this is primarily a verbal reasoning based multi-source reasoning question. There might be quantitative reasoning question based questions as well, right? So the more you practice, you can understand that these questions are a bit lengthy. So you would have to practice a lot in order to quickly understand what that particular question says in order to get to that particular information, right? All the best for your exam. Thank you.